when you first realize that you have been defrauded and everything's fake, you lose a boyfriend, you lose a future, and you lost everything. But so many people, Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, you have no idea how many people this guy has defrauded. And now he has started in Israel.
He'd fleeced a substantial amount of money out of you, hadn't he? $200,000?
Yeah, £200,000, so $250,000.
Shit.
Yeah, my heart is just pounding. You know, what is the answer? What is the answer? Now I'm going to be told it's fake, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. I talked to one, and they says, "Hi, no, we can't cash this check. It's just because the amount is too high." And I was like, "Huh? So the check is real? Something is wrong here." Something was just wrong. Something just didn't feel right. And I felt like I needed to throw up. Like physically, my body told me that something's up before I mentally managed to do something about it. He's worth nothing. He is a proper narcissist and psychopath, and he doesn't have any feelings, doesn't have friends, he doesn't have family. I feel sorry for him. I want to laugh at him. That is what I feel about him.
So, welcome to this week's episode of So What's Your Story? And in the studio with me today, I have an amazing woman, Cecile Fjellhøy. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yeah, you did. Very great.
Thank you.
I know.
Because I was struggling with that one. You know, it's like it's spelled as it said, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people just think it's more difficult than what it is.
More complicated than it is.
But I've been thinking after a while, if I should just try to be just Cecilia, like Cher or Madonna. It's just like, that would be better. Or just like, but yeah, it is. Yeah, it is my name.
I got it right.
Yeah.
Well, Cecile is one of the key characters on the global sensation that was aired across Netflix, Tinder Swindler, where she was drawn into dating and getting ripped off, quite frankly, to the tune of 200 grand, was it around there?
Yeah.
Yeah, by a con man who professed to be called Leviev, but his real name is Simon Leviev. She is from Norway and is a survivor of this monster, we are pleased to say. And from her experience, she's gone on to be a public speaker, a TV celebrity, a successful businesswoman, and she's also an activist determined to help women avoid this type of catfishing and trap. You're incredibly brave, Cecilia. You're incredibly kind. We've spent some time outside the studio together getting to know each other briefly. I see an amazing person in front of me. She's also the co-founder of lovesaid.org.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
My little baby.
Your little baby.
Yeah.
So welcome to So What's Your Story?
Thank you.
It's great having you here. This is your story, Cecilia, and you know it better than anyone, all right? Yeah. And although it's been globally put across the world, there's weaves and twists that you know obviously are very, very personal to you. So let's take this back if we can.
Yeah.
I'd like to start with growing up in Norway. What was family life like? Brothers, sisters, you know, what was it like? Where, you know, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. No, I was very lucky. Like I had such a great upbringing. So I have 3 siblings.
Okay.
But 2 of them are whole. So 2 of them I grew up with, actually. Like, so an elderly brother and a younger sister. So my sister is like 7 years younger and my brother is 4 years older. So it's a big age gap. And then my parents, my dad was a nurse and my mom was a teacher. So we were really like a very just normal family coming home. At 4 p.m. we were eating dinner. And now that I moved here, I've understood how early we're actually eating dinner. I think that was like another thing when I was like...
The UK listeners are going to be like, 4 p.m.?
I know. It sounds like we're so...
What's that? That's afternoon tea.
I know it is. We actually ate dinner at 4. So like, luckily I had a mom that was a teacher, you know, so she was... which is so great that she had all the vacations so she could spend so much time with us. We had a cabin up in the mountains, so I love being outside in the snow. Like, I love winter. It's like before I moved here, before I moved to the UK, it was my favorite season because the snow and everything brightens up.
Hang on a minute. What do you mean before you moved?
Because here in the UK, you don't have the snow at the same extent that I had when I was growing up.
Okay, proper snow.
Because it's the proper snow. It's the, like when you go out.
Cold.
Proper cold. Like everything is just brightens up with the snow.
Yeah.
Very safe upbringing. Like was just very normal. My parents divorced when I was 10, but I kept living in the house. And it was just I was a very political teenager, super political. So I was very into politics. I don't know. It was very weird.
Right.
And so I was starting very early on and if having kind of strong opinions and wanting to kind of make a difference. It was like, we need to do something, about stuff. So, and then I decided to go into, I was doing media and communication in high school. So that's when I got into design, sitting in front of a computer. So I was making websites when I was like 14, 15 years old. I was up at 4 a.m. learning how to do HTML and code and stuff. And this was like early 2000s. So it was like a play yard, with the World Wide Web. We didn't have all those kind of...
Was that back in the day when the World Wide Web was just launched?
It was in the very early infancies. So you could have
was it dial-up?
It was a bit after dial-up.
Showing my age there.
But I remember dial-up, just so you know. But it was more about, you could have a splash page where you could just tell people, this website is made with this resolution kind of, and with this browser. And if you don't have that, it's shame on you if it doesn't look good on you. Okay. Kind of like, we didn't care.
Okay.
Yeah, if it wasn't accessible and those type of things. It was like, well, you could do whatever. It was super fun. So I was just like a really IT nerd.
Yeah.
Just sitting in my basement room. So that was like my upbringing.
Because that led to you then in your career becoming a CX designer?
CX. It's called so many, but UX, interaction designer, CX designer, product designer it's called. But that it was like...
So the acronyms stand for...
customer experience, user experience, interaction designer, product designer. It's all it's all
sure.
kind of whatever you. So it's all about kind of finding out what users' needs are and then creating what they're needing. And so it's about doing user research, workshop facilitation. Then you prototype whatever digital it is. Might be an app, website,
All right.
Whatever it is, and then you user test it, and then you develop it with.
And where was that early career taking you? Were you based in Norway? Yeah.
So I was in Norway. I did a bachelor in applied computer science, and I was just working for 4 years, and then I was like really loving it. I felt like my dream job. I loved it. It's like the most human thing you can do in IT, because a lot of them are just thinking that you're just sitting in front of your computer, but this was much more.
And I need to say to the listeners who are not watching this video content, when you just said that, Cecile, your eyes just lit up.
Yeah, I felt so lucky that what I really love that I did for free for so many hours when I was a teenager, like I've suddenly got money for. I was saying that I got paid to do speeches, for my old work and stuff. Wow. Like I felt so lucky that you got to share your knowledge, and it was just like it was so much fun. I was a graduate. It felt like I was, it was like, and that was in my 20s kind of. So I had a really good time in my 20s. Yeah, was buying my apartment in Oslo, like was doing everything correctly, and was working in IT. So it was very stable. My life was very how it was supposed to be, We were talking a bit outside there about how everyone's saying what you should do in your life.
We spoke about this outside the studio, and it was really interesting because Cecilia and I were having this conversation about, isn't it funny how society often pushes us into this, oh, well, you're 25 now, or whatever the number might be. You really should think about getting a property. And then for a lot of women in particular, it's like, you should be dating. It should be stable dating now. Are you not engaged? Yeah. And it's like, and then where's your children? And it's like, do we really have to listen to this BS all the time? Because isn't life just a journey that it's our journey? And should we be able to make our own rules? I kind of think so.
It should be. But I think it's so difficult when you're set and so many of your friends are doing the same type of thing. And then you feel, oh God, if I'm going to be able to, keep these friends almost, because if you suddenly your life is going into a entirely different direction. If you're not having kids, you don't really have so much in common with them anymore, and they don't have the same amount of time for you. Yeah. So then you need to find new friends. Yeah. So that is where I was just started getting like, is this what life is? I just had this feeling like in my late 20s, I was like, am I just going to do this for the rest of my life? Like, how many decades are there? I was like in my 30s and my 40s and my 50s. It's a lot of that, like 30 more years.
Right.
I love design, but I was like, and I know that that's what another thing that I love most about my old work is that you never know how you're going to consume digital content in the future. You know, how would we know about Apple Watches or, you know, our smartphones?
AI.
You know, so I was like, okay, but anyways, when I'm up in my 50s, I'm not going to be working on the same thing. But I was kind of like, is this it? And then I wasn't done doing more education. I had my bachelor, but I was like, oh, but my bachelor wasn't in design. It was in IT in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, maybe I should do more studying. But I was kind of like, well, I don't want to do 2 years of masters. I want to do 1 year of masters. And where do you have 1 year of masters? Here in the UK. So, not only that, but I was like, oh, I can do 1 more year of studying. I think that when you started working is a bit big thing to go back to be a student for 2 years. But
so you parked the cold winters.
I parked the cold winters.
And you thought, you know what, this year option, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So that is when I was like, no, I'm going to go. And where did I go? I started at a school called Hyper Island, which is an amazing school. It's great if you've been working a bit and you kind of want to go back, because how they're putting up kind of the curriculum is more that they have people from the industry coming in and teaching you about a certain topic. They give you a brief from a real kind of company. It might be Coca-Cola. We did for BBC, like we did. And then you work for 3 weeks with totally new people from your studying, and then you pitch it, proper pitching.
Wow.
And then you write an academic article. But that is like for half a year. It's like boom, boom, boom. So that was up in Manchester. So I moved to Manchester. So I lived in Manchester for half a year.
So you were used to rain and things. And listen, listeners, I'm going to dig there because I live in Cheshire, which is just close to Manchester, know it really well. But it is a bit of a standing joke that the north is colder than the south, as in temperature wise. But that's not really true, you know. No,
I was more that I felt like when it was first raining in Manchester, it was raining for a week. If it first started to rain, we're just going to rain and rain. I think that was when I was like, isn't it just like done now? No, another day of rain. But I had so much fun. That was when I first had a proper student experience in Manchester. I had so much fun. Like happy hour. We don't have happy hour in Norway, or can't be. So I had well,
you don't have happy hour because you have your dinner at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's true. I was in bed already. So so that was like, and it's such a growing as a school, it grows you as a human as well. So it's a lot of reflection. Okay. So when you're in a group, you always give each other feedback. So when you're done, you stand in front of each other with Post-its with like one thing that you admire, one thing they could improve of, and like so.
Was it ever brutal?
No, and I think that was so great because everyone did it to everyone. So it's just very humbling, and you did proper reflection sessions after. And I think it's an amazing school for just self-growth as well. It was really tough, and after that, we could choose wherever we wanted to go in the world to write our master thesis.
Wow.
And where did I decide to go?
Go on.
London. I'd gone to visit here and I was like, okay, I have to live in a metropolitan city. Like I have to go like one day.
Hang on a minute. Let me just pull you for 1 second. There's nothing wrong with Manchester, you know.
Nothing wrong. I loved it as a student, but I was like more of a...
You wanted it. You wanted to. You thought you wanted London. That's more me.
I was shocked with the rental prices down here when I checked that when I had to move down here. And I was like, that was compared to Manchester. So I started working for the company that I worked for in Norway as part-time for their innovation team. And then I wrote my master thesis part-time as well. So that was in storytelling in VR, in virtual reality, because I love virtual reality. Wow. So I was like, so that was back in 2017. And VR has still not hit it off. So I'm still waiting for my thesis to be put to use. So so that is kind of how I ended up here in London, and how kind of the story why I'm known, because it happened fairly quickly after I moved to London. So it's been part of my journey here for most of the time I've been here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it is a big part of what happened to you in this country. Let's talk about, if we can, Cecile.
Mm-hmm.
So you're here, you're single, you're on your own. You do what a lot of people do.
Mm.
You think, okay, let's have a browse on the dating apps.
I loved it. I still think it's fun. Yeah. I'm weird.
So I'm single. Okay.
Yeah.
So I look on dating apps occasionally, and we can swipe left, swipe right very, very quickly. How was it for you? And were you across a lot of the platforms? Did you focus on a specific one? Did you have clarity in your mind what you were looking for? Or were you just curious?
I think at that point in time, I didn't know if I was going to be in London forever so I think for exactly around that time, it was more, I just moved there. So I thought it was just, these men are very different than the men in Norway. The men in Norway are really outdoorsy, up in mountains and you can see a lot of hiking, a lot of skiing. Mm-hmm. In London, there is more cosmopolitan, like just nice cars, like restaurants, just sitting with a beer at a pub. It's more that type of vibe. So I was like, these are like a bit different. So I was going on dates. I don't know if I was like, if I would meet the one, I would meet the one. I was 29, I was turning 30. So I was ready if I met someone, I would kind of go for it. But I think the time when, the infamous swipe to the right on this guy, that is the reason I'm sitting here. I think I was just bored. I was finishing up my master thesis. I was late. I had extensions and everything, so I just felt awful. I was home a weekend because I just had to finish it up. So it was a Saturday night. I was just bored. And no, I think I was just on Tinder at the time. I don't think I had ventured. I don't think Hinge was such a big deal. This was back in 2018, 2017. So it was like, I think, but I saw Tinder was the... Tinder was the thing.
How does it feel when you mention Tinder now?
Oh, no, with time now, with the work I've been doing after everything, my opinion have changed a bit about what the dating apps are doing and what they could do better. But in my case, they couldn't have stopped this guy. He was real in real life as well. So,
based on what I've seen on the Netflix documentary, he was very clever at creating who he wasn't. Right?
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it was not a single thing in my mind that had me wondering if he was the person that he portrayed to be. There are so many small things that I've been thinking about afterwards. For example, when he left me in the apartment, that was one of the stories from the documentary. I was feeling like, my God, he's trusting me because he left me in the apartment with all his expensive clothes, watches, I'm sure maybe his laptop. I didn't check anything. That how much I trust, because I felt I'm not gonna take away that trust because you're leaving me in your place. And I think that was so smart of him, all these. And for example, when we were traveling on the private jet, he gave me all the passports because we were several people. So he said, can you just hold this? And I held them for a minute and I was like, shall I check them? I was like, no, I'm not going to. That was going to look awful, or like I could, of course. Yeah. But if I had done that, I would have seen that there were no Simon Leviev on that flight and that he was using another passport. There's all small stuff that he did.
That is so cunning.
That he knows you want, like
cunning.
That he
and there is people, there is people out there that go by a different name in the UK to their birth name of their cultural origin, have a different passport, lie about their past. Yeah. So but it was so cunning and dare I say almost brave of him. The gall of him, really. I think it was unbelievable because why would you? Why you would have. I think most of us would sit there and think, if I start flicking through passports, well, what does that make me look like? So.
And just and that makes me trust that, he's trusting me with, these type of things that you make, that it's these small stuff. And I think it was all those smaller things that as well went through my head when I was starting to, my God, what is going on, But then you were thinking about, but what about this woman that I met, What about the friend I met? Is she in on it? Or is she being a victim as well? You know, you had all these people that you have met.
Because just for the benefit of the listeners, this guy he lived a very fast lifestyle, but also luxury was pretty much ingrained in there. So you mentioned he took you on the private jet. He had some fabulous places around the world. You know, a lot of people would look at this and go, "Wow, this is amazing." But but where did it hook you, Cecile? Where did you? Because it did hook you, didn't it?
Yeah, I think he hooked me because, like, for me, like how it has been represented is that I was just jetting around with him the entire time. And no, because I had my full-time job in Oslo. So all this luxurious lifestyle that people were telling about, I was the proper milking cow in this. So maybe he was jetting around with my money. And I was back in
because he was
London.
A con man. Let's get that clear.
He was a proper con man, and we went on a date, and how he kind of got me to believe, okay, from the get-go, that this guy is real was first the amount of people who were around him. Kind of, you meet an entire team of people. You meet his daughter, which is real, by the way. Everyone had questions about if the daughter is real. The daughter is real. It's from an ex-victim in Finland.
Wow.
So she has a case of Stockholm syndrome. I really feel for her. I can't imagine having a kid with your fraudster. So I'm trying to, And, you meet his business partner, which is Avishai, which has been with him for a long period of time. It is his childhood friend. You meet a private assistant, which I now know is another victim. You know, you meet so many people who are saying, Simon, so how it gets hooked in, I think just like you believe what you see. And then he hooks you in by doing the proper, I call it almost like trauma bonding, that you feel a bit bad for this guy. And he gets these people who are empaths, you know. So he's talking about his childhood and what he has been gone through.
Goodness me.
How
this is really resonating with me.
And you can see as well, like from the lifestyle he's living. When we were in London, for example, I was like, can't you just come to my place and we can make tacos? You know, I have those. I was like, Cecile, you're so cute. And I was like, to just be home, because he was always out and about. It was almost
So he rarely came to your place, rarely had a little, evening of watching, pretty much, mundane TV and making nachos. And
it started very early that he couldn't come to London because of the threats. And I've always been wondering what happened there. You know, I've always been like, that is one of my biggest questions, because it had to be another reason why he couldn't come to London than that. I think it was because I know that he defrauded a company. So I'm so sure that was the main reason, but I haven't gotten that.
If he stepped here, he'd be...
Yeah. So I think that is maybe the main reason that owner understood that he had been. So the private jet I was on was not from other people's money, but it's from the company that rented out the private jet to him.
Jeez.
So it's like what I've been trying like to say now further on, like, okay, you get duped, but everyone got duped by this guy.
I know.
You know, and I think that is so important for people to understand. It was men, it was women, businesses, hotels, everyone believed Simon Leviev was the successful CEO of this diamond company.
Yeah. Whilst this is happening, I'm dying to ask you, was it exciting?
For me, at the start, yes, because it's a totally different world. And I think one of the main things that I actually enjoy by being on Tinder is like meeting this very different people with very different lifestyles. But the thing is that what is been so difficult for me is that he was actually a really, really nice and attentive guy and funny guy when you were with him. And one of the best things about meeting Pernilla and Eileen is actually getting that confirmed, because, all these, videos, and he looks like a proper douchebag. And I was like, what? Who was this? But it was so nice to be able to talk to Pernilla. Like when we were with him, he was, because you get so scrambled up in your head.
Pernilla is another one of his victims.
Yeah, right? Pernilla. So meeting her it helped me so much, meeting someone else of the victims to go together and like,
so you can confirm in your mind this wasn't me. I wasn't deluded here. This guy actually was charming and
attentive, and he really cared. He was such a caring person, and he was caring with so many. Like all the people who was working, if we're going to talk about like Israel working for him, he really took good care of them. They were eating lunches with us, really like, and with his daughter, you could see that, and with his friends, like he had a friend coming over in Amsterdam when I was there making food for him. Like how many fraudsters have friends that would come and make dinner for them? You know, like then you would think that they would go out for a luxurious restaurant and he would pay, but she came to make dinner for all of us. So I was like, well, this guy is really, and she was as well, Simon is such a great guy, you know, and I was like, oh, it's so nice, you know. It's there were so many things that, but I have to say it was proper love bombing, you know, like finally I thought that I had found someone that felt as strongly, as quickly for me as I felt for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's how, I think love is the driving force behind a lot of the things that you do for someone, you know, it is. So
I agree.
I think
even when later we realize we've been making mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's something really interesting here, isn't there? When we start a relationship with someone, our heart tends to lead us, you know, and our emotions. When we start to see things that don't quite stack up, our gut starts to talk to us. But because we're not listening to the gut completely, and the heart and the head is leading us, we get clouded in our judgment. Does that make sense?
Like we want it to be real.
Yeah, we do.
Because it's so great, and you feel so great in his presence, and he makes you feel so special when you're with him, you know. It felt like a proper, you know, like
a princess.
You felt like the luckiest girl in the world, you know, that he liked you, because it was this kind of like, oh, do you like me? And it's, yeah, like, and I still, when I talk about like the good times with him, I still think it's difficult because I miss that guy, you know. Oh, sorry, I always tear up when I talk about I hate when I talk about the good times, because
issues in front of you.
Talking about the good times makes me more sad, because I was really happy. Like I look back on the messages and stuff, and that girl, innocent girl.
You kept those, have you?
Yeah, like that innocent girl, you know, like I've never been like that with anyone after him, because he destroyed that kind of innocence, which I felt was what I did, which I really well know. I did nothing wrong, you know. I did nothing wrong than loving someone and just doing. And I think it's sad, because I think, yeah, you never ever thought that he, which I know now, the amount of people that he's had watching him in his eyes, you know, like, you have to promise me everything's going to be okay, and he can lie straight to your face while he's kissing you, kind of. That is like, I think that is very difficult to. So that is like talking about the romantic feelings are much more difficult than talking about what he did, because I really don't want to. Yeah. But they're still there. I think it's like, in some aspects, you know, he made me happy for a very short period of time, but he was a good fake boyfriend no, he was playing the part really well, you know, in the sense that not only but like how all women want a man to be, asking tons of questions, remember all the small details. For example, I was very cold in my apartment in London. And I said that in January, and in March, he remembered that, and he wrote that in a message, you know, like, I want you to be warm in your apartment, not freezing. And the amount of women that, how could he remember all these small stuff that I just said to him on the phone? And that is why I think he's so fucking amazing to be a fraudster, because this guy never, and I was in his apartment in Amsterdam, which I knew other women have been, not a single, you know, bobby pin, not a single thing from a woman, not a single strand, you know, all the type of things that you would think, not a single thing. So he was really good at what he was doing. And I'm sure maybe I didn't want to see it as well. I'm not going to put it, you know what I mean? But
yeah, you were kind of self-blinded a little bit.
I can't say, you know, no. But what I have to say, like, I didn't see like suddenly something in the
It's really interesting to sit across the room with you right now and look into your eyes. And when we sat outside, I looked into your eyes intently because I see you. Okay, and I don't mean this to sound really spooky and anything else, but as you've just described those points of the closeness and the love, you welled up.
Yeah,
and it's still there. It's amazing, isn't it? How people can hurt us, and yet, if we are beautiful human beings and nice people and empaths and just deserving of the best things. that it still affects us.
And that is what I mean. I really, really, truly believe that Simon put out, or I have to say the team, because he couldn't have done this by himself, to put out a very big net, went on tons of dates.
Wow.
But the ones who lost money were the good-hearted, empathic women that would help him, you know?
It's always the case, you know?
That's what I mean. And there's nothing wrong. If you want to be a woman and go on, you know, fancy dates and get the man, or being a gold digger, as you say, you do you, kind of. Like, I'm saying, like, but the thing is that I am not, like, you are not a gold digger, as people said to me, and you give out money. That has been the biggest, which has been so annoying, where, like, at least the woman who was there for him and was helping him, we're the one being labeled gold diggers, while a lot of the others, which we've seen on the videos that have been posted, that were at him at these clubs. Not that they're gold diggers, but I have to say they're the one who partied on my dime, you know, because I didn't, you know what I mean? And I've been trying a lot of the misconceptions here is that I got a lot of the money that he spent, I got. But I was in London. I was working, you know. So, not that I would have felt better about it. Maybe a bit if I spent more of the money that I was used. If I got to stay in a 5-star hotel, because he didn't. Like, I stayed at his apartment. We did takeaway. We did the dinner. I never even went to a 5-star hotel with him to have dinner. So I never got to have these. Not that it matters, but I mean, like, it's just been very annoying how they seduced us throughout this period with all this. I was stuck here in London.
Wow.
I just wanted, because things weren't going, things were not getting better. Things were only going worse. And we say when we're very clouded and we don't really know what situation we're in, you're not thinking clearly.
Yeah,
you're not thinking
clearly. I agree. And I think, you know, physically, when somebody's controlling us, okay, when they have narcissistic tendencies, and I've experienced this, you know, they make us feel a certain way, and when that happens to us emotionally, there's a chemical that's going around the brain that makes us very clouded. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're confused. We're confused as hell. And we do things that when we're in our clarity moments, we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have stood for that shit. We wouldn't have stood to be treated that way. We just wouldn't.
We would have asked a lot more questions.
We would have asked a lot more questions.
I wish I would have been stronger. And that is my main thing, is that with this story, when everyone's saying, what is typical fraud victim, an elderly woman, you know, like vulnerable. But I was like, we are all vulnerable in different cases.
Yes.
Vulnerable doesn't mean to be a very negative. Like, we are all kind of, in some aspects throughout our lives, we might be in a state where we might be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And that is like, okay, I was just in London. I was just new in London, didn't have any close friends, and my family wasn't there. You're vulnerable in that sense. In that period.
And not always, Cecile, from a monetary term, right?
Oh.
We might be vulnerable emotionally.
Yeah, that is
somebody might take advantage of that.
Yeah.
You know, they may emotionally try and strip us away.
Yeah.
Because they get a kick out of that. So thanks for sharing that. And you've just mentioned something there which is really interesting. Was there a point where you started to question your own decisions that were leading to you transferring a bit of money, or just thinking, what's going on here? Was there ever a point that you can recollect where you thought, hang on a minute? And when you did have those clear moments of mind.
Yeah, I was, the last time I saw him, a bit before that, I think I was just so stressed to just get enough money in on these cards and keeping him safe. So, because I really want people to understand, like, when you're working full time, when you have workshops, and then you have a guy who's sending you messages and calling you continuously, it's difficult to think clearly. And then you feel that you have his life. But I remember, I think it was mid-April, and, you know, none of the transfers were coming in, but he always had a very...
This is the transfers back to you.
So I got some money.
Back.
Yeah.
Right.
So we could fill up the card and he could be safe, you know, and everything would be fine. The issue is that Simon is very clever, again, that he does really big transfers. So he didn't owe me 500,000, but that's what he tries to transfer. Do you know what happens if you try to transfer $500,000 from a company account in Hong Kong to a private account in UK?
There must be a flag goes up.
Yeah. So when I then called the bank, because he's really good, they said, no, we have to check this and check. The days are just, he knows exactly. So I was like, it's not coming
So it's
in.
never going to hit you. Never going to hit your account,
That's what I mean. But he's saying, you know.
So he knows this.
Yeah, no. So it's just to buy time. He knows exactly because he knew he could just transfer 50 or 5 just to have some, you know. So I said to him later on, you know, we get desperate. I just don't need 500K, you know. I don't want 500K. Like I don't want all that money. Take it away. And then he said, well, you can get a check. So that's when I went over to Amsterdam to get the check from him. And it's when I saw the check, even though I was like, I've never seen a check before because we don't have checks. But I was a bit like concerned with the check. But I was like asking him a bit. That's when I started to but your gut is just eating you up. I can't even explain the amount. And you're with a guy, you're with him, you're with the fraudster. So difficult to align what you're supposed to feel. Because you're fucking like, is this a guy even? Like, this is my boyfriend. This is supposed to be my boyfriend. But he's giving me now a check, which I have even questions about. But I go and cash it in because I'm desperate. Mm-hmm. And then I get a call from the bank where they say, well, we can't cash this check. And my heart just sinks.
Oh, shit.
And that's when I call him. And if you've seen the Tinder Swindler, you can hear how he's like so angry on the phone to Eileen. That's exactly how he was. You know, that is not an issue. No, call the company, you know, because he knew they would never call the company, you know. Call the company, the diamond company, you know. It's real. It's real. Have they even called? And I was like, it's not my fault that they don't want, you know, cash it. It's like he was so angry at everything else. So he said, can you get the reason why they won't cash a check? I mean, on the phone for 40 minutes and my heart is just pounding, you know, what is the answer? What is the answer? Now I'm going to be told it's fake, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. I talked to one and it says, hi, no, we can't cash this check. It's just because the amount is too high. And I was like, huh? So the check is real? Yeah, nothing's wrong with the check. It's just that we don't cash in that amount into a private account. And what the fuck? And then I got to know the bank doesn't even check if the bank didn't check if the check was real. So he won an extra 2 weeks. Not that I had any more money almost to give him, but I was like, he won 2 extra weeks where I was like just shaking and feeling terrible because I was like, oh, the check is real, you know?
Oh my God.
So there's so many things that went so bad here. So that is one when I said where I really was like, you know, the clarity was like, this check is not, you know, like this, something is wrong here. Something was just wrong. Something just didn't feel right. But that is what I come to the conclusion after now working for a year and like getting more clarity. And like, I think for a lot of fraud victims, the reality of what has happened to you is even worse than being in that bad situation. Because when you first realize that you have been defrauded and everything's fake, you lose a boyfriend, you lose a future, and you lost everything. So a lot of fraud victims were still keeping and holding on to the fraudster that maybe he will give some money back, you know, maybe I'll give, you know, get something back. That's a lot of us do. And he has gotten some victims over to his side. So they are getting money. That is how he does it a lot of times, that he gets them over to his side and so they get some money back. So I think that is so difficult for people to understand. Like, but why would you continue? It's more like you just want to keep contact because the moment contact is shut off, you have to realize what's happened to you. And that is the worst feeling. So I think I was just like, after that, even though I found out that it was real, no money was coming in, you know, no money was coming in. You know what that means? That and I was just feeling sicker and sicker in my body at work. When everything blew up, they were like, how we couldn't even, I was so well at hiding it. Jesus. But at the end, I felt like I needed to throw up. Like physically, my body told me that something's up before I mentally managed to do something about it.
Cecile.
And that is insane.
That's mad.
Yeah. But isn't that interesting with how our bodies work?
Yes.
Because it's like mentally. And so many other fraud victims that I've talked to are saying the same thing. It's like, like that kind of, to actually realize it. And a lot of, banking employees have asked me, what can we say? There's nothing a banking employee could say. I think I talked to a banking employee at the end and she could just hear it in my voice. It was a Norwegian one. And she said, what's going on? She said, because no one had actually talked to me properly of any banks throughout all of this. And at the end, she was just like, I think something is not right here. And that's when I was like, oh, she could hear it in my voice.
He'd fleeced a substantial amount of money out of you, hadn't he?
Yeah, God.
$200,000?
Yeah, £200,000. So $250,000.
Shit.
Yeah.
So that's awful.
Yeah, it's a lot of money as well.
How did you feel when the lid was lifted, when you seen through this facade?
I think for me, when he finally shifted, when he became kind of irate with me and started, yelling at me on the phone, he said he was going to kill himself because he had lost on a big deal. And I was like, too many things are not going well. This is like, I just realized it, Too many things are not going the way you want it to go.
God.
Yeah. So, and he called me an imbecile, how stupid I was, because I was questioning the process. And he had always been the CEO, and all the things he said to me happened. All the things he said would have happened, except getting the money into my account. So he just changed his entire, and like, this is not my boyfriend. And before he had always been loving, oh, we're going to be together, like always like, oh. But then I was like, no, you're not my boyfriend anymore. And that's when I wrote an email to American Express when I came to my work. I was like sitting there just shaking.
Jesus.
And I said, I understand something has happened and then they came to my work. But can you imagine, he called me, I was talking to him and I was just crying. And he talked to my manager as well on the phone to ask them to take care of me. So I didn't do anything to myself because that point in time. So they came to my work on a Friday, which was, thank God it was a Friday, in 2 hours. 2 special security agents from Amex. It means it's serious. So they came and my manager was with me actually in the room. The best manager ever. Like I have to say, it's like, I've been so lucky with my work. We've been talking about it previously. Yeah. It's a lot of the people you work with make your job a lot of times. And he was so nice. But I think he got a bit of a shock because no one had knew what I've been through. And he was sitting there and like, they showed me a picture of him. And then they had some names in writing, some of the names. And he said, do you recognize any of these names? And I said, no. But I know now that with Amex, you can see who you bought plane tickets for. And one of the names on that was Pernilla's name from the documentary. And I asked them at the end, I give my statements. Luckily, they're very nice to me and said, we're not going to go after you because I know I had done shitty stuff. I'd sent in false documents, even though I didn't know they were false at the time.
Yeah.
And I had given the Amex card to him and had lied to them that I was using the card. Like I put myself in a lot of, and he said, we're not after you, we're after him. We're building a case. You're the last string of 3-4 victims.
Gosh.
This was back in May 2018 that Amex knew of.
Jesus.
So I asked, can I reach out to any of these, the names? Because then I knew like most likely they're victims.
Yeah.
And he said to me, no, because we want this to go to trial. And if you start connecting with each other, you might ruin that.
Yeah.
We will handle it and we will reach out to them. Do you think they did? They never reached out to Pernilla, even though she is an Amex member. And they share the same support line. They could easily, and she got defrauded. I went there in May. She got defrauded in November. And she's never even gotten a proper apology or anything from them.
Wow.
So this is like something that we have wanted to say out loud, but no one wants, all these documentaries that we do, no one wants to talk about it. And for me, that is the biggest. It's just for me personally, even though Amex was really nice to me, is the play that Amex has had in this. Amex was his favorite bank to use. I got £67,000 of credit in 3 weeks with no credit history in the UK. One of the pay slips that I sent in that I was supposedly, because I was working for LLD Diamonds, the company, suddenly I was living in New York. But they like not even a single question about that. And they
LLD Diamonds was his company. So he'd in effect made you an
employee,
fictitious an employee, and then said, oh, here's one of our paychecks. Oh my goodness.
So I know kind of like I was really scared. I know I did, but for me this was a crisis, and it's the biggest mistake I ever done. I don't even understand how I did it. I was like it's insane what you do when you're being, I was like,
you were being manipulated.
Yeah.
You were being manipulated. And you know, it's as we say, you know, this clouded mind.
It's more for me. I understand like a lot of the blame, you know, sometimes fraud victims. How could you? But I was like, this couldn't have ended so badly if we could have just had a bit better checks of different kinds of stuff. Like I got that Amex card without any single documentation. I wish I never would have received that Amex card, you know. Sometimes it's just a bit too easy. So that has been the biggest thing for us, I think, for us victims, is the feeling of like, why was it so easy for him to use the system to his advantage?
Because he knew it.
Yeah, I know.
Because he knew it.
I know.
So what does it give you now a perception of online dating? Because I said to you before I came into the studio, Cecile, where are you at? You know, because like, if I don't know, right? We've all had pain in relationships. You know, I mean, me as much as anybody.
Yeah.
And you know, been mistreated and disregarded and disrespected and blah 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 blah. I think you have to have faith, and you have to sort of say to yourself, well, that's that one individual. You know, there is a beautiful world out there. There's lots of people. But how does it sit with you? Do you date? Are you single right now?
I am still single right now.
Okay.
But I do date. Like I'm dating someone, but I'm still single.
Okay, I've got you. Yeah.
Never know when it's going to end, you know. So it's better to just no. But I really truly like online dating. I think it's opened up a world to meet people you normally wouldn't meet. No, even though you can meet someone like him.
Yeah.
But I have met so many people that normally where I live around, you know, in the Fulham area, I can meet someone that is maybe in Brixton or like someone else.
Sure.
If you just would meet them in person, most likely you would never.
No.
So I love the opportunity to meet someone.
Mm-hmm.
And especially during COVID when I was single. I don't know what I would have done without dating apps and just being able to talk to someone else than the one person you were living with. So I was really enjoying it. But I feel like, and I think a lot of people are putting too much emphasis on it as well. For me, it's an add-on. When everyone's saying no one meets in person anymore, you can still meet. Like at the White Horse, the Slovenia Pony, if anyone in London, like there's plenty of people that you can meet in person.
Okay.
I don't think we've taken away the opportunity to meet people in person. Still do that. It's an add-on for me.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't take it that serious. Like a lot of people take just because they're chatting to someone, they get so flustered if they don't respond or they delete them. It's like, think about it like anything else. Think about it as you go up to someone in a bar and they just leave. Like, we can't do much about it. And I have to say, if you meet someone in a bar, you know just as little as we don't know who that is. So I was like, we can meet someone in a bar, you don't know who that is. What is the difference? I don't understand when people are saying that.
That's a great point.
You give someone your number, you don't know that person.
Yeah, that's a good point. But didn't you say after this experience you met someone and then it was the timing was not?
Yeah, like I think when you endure something, everyone goes a bit differently with that. But I was more like, I didn't want to have his feeling on me. Didn't want him to be the last one I kissed and etc. I was like, I didn't. So I went back on the dating apps because I was like, I just need to go out and date and just meet nice people. Because I've met great guys on dating apps and I've dated and been together with very nice guys. I know there's plenty of very nice men out there. So I was like, okay, so I met a very, very nice guy, but I think it was too soon for me. The trauma, I think I was like really angry. And like
not just for you, maybe. Maybe for him as well.
No, for him it was really, really difficult because I think it's difficult. I met him 3 weeks after. And then I had to tell him like a weekend, well, I've just been defrauded and it's very heavy.
And was the Netflix thing there?
No, nothing was.
No.
That was still May 2018 when I matched up with him and I realized in May. So it was really, so he was coming along with me on the journey of letting the papers know, and he was very supportive, but it was just, it was some instances where I reacted a bit and just mentally, I wasn't really there.
Understandably.
And I was like, and I totally get that it's difficult when you haven't known each other for that long.
No.
And it wasn't his job. He didn't know me well enough.
Yeah.
That's true. He just didn't know me well enough. And you shouldn't have to deal with that. So I was like, it's better. But we ended it was amicable. And that was so nice. We still it ended on a very good note and not
Good.
So it was a great relationship, even though it was like half a year.
It didn't figure out.
Yeah.
And let me just, I'm sorry, I sort of almost fast forwarded a little bit, because when you realized what had been happening to you and you started to lift the lid, a lot of people didn't believe you, did they?
When I had to go and report all of this, Amex understood what I was going through. But when I had to report it in Norway, I was just met that this was a boyfriend who just lured me, kind of like, it took 1.5 hours, the entire statement. And for that, it's nothing for this type of story. If you want to go into proper details.
Yes.
I understood immediately that we're just going to drop it. Then I blocked Simon because I wanted to catch him. I think all of us want to catch him and wanted, but the police are working very slowly. So that didn't work. So I had to block him in the end. And then I tried to tell, all the financial institutions in Norway about it, because that's where I had most of my loans, because my credit was the best there.
Sure.
And none of them wanted to even stop, because I had so many invoices coming in. I'd taken up 9 loans. So a lot of invoices coming in with very big numbers on, I couldn't pay them. Can you imagine 9 invoices coming in? And a lot of them is £1,000 each. You can't pay that. So I was like, and they kind of, they don't see the severity in it. They're very sorry that I ended up in this situation. Just pay the invoice. And I was like, that is not how it works. Oh, it's too much. It's not that I don't want to pay or can. If I had all the money, you would have gotten it. But I didn't have the money. I wouldn't be able to survive or pay my rent. And then I went to the London police because he made a death threat against me. I went back to work very quickly, and then I got an email where he sent a threat to me.
He emailed it?
Yeah, because I blocked him. So he emailed it to my work email and my personal email.
Wow.
So he said, we know you, your friends, your family, take my advice and back up. So it was horrible. And I came back to work because I wanted to really work. It's been really healing for me to work. But I just and I started bawling. So my coworkers, again, so nice. And then I had to take 3 weeks off just to regain my strength. But went to the police then with that threat, and they took it much more seriously. But everything is so slow, and you don't know if they're ever going to do anything. And he was still out there. The feeling of I knew we could easily take him. If I could have kept contact with him, I could have gotten him to that apartment in Amsterdam, and you could have put handcuffs on him in May 2018. If you really wanted to, really wanted to, you could have. But of course not, And the same with Pernilla. When she went to Hamburg, with that watch, her thinking was to get the police in Germany to arrest him. Again, nothing, It always, we're always trying with, I've tried, Pernilla tried, and then Eileen tried in the end. We all have done out the best we could do, So just the feeling, that is why I was and I just felt you don't take it as seriously that this guy's still out abusing people. Because it was just not about the fraud. It's that what he's doing through these people and still doing. And they're in this bubble thinking that. And I was I needed to stop him. So that's when I went to the media.
But fraudsters can do some heinous things, can't they?
Oh, God.
They can, and whether they dress it up as, I didn't know and it was nothing to do with me and, all of this bullshit, they're cunning. They're slippery.
And it's kind of...
And the facade sometimes that's projected to the outside world, it's a little bit like the Elvis song, look like an angel, talk like an angel, but the devil inside.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
How do you sort of reflect about that now, Cecile, you know, the fact that this, I don't know whether I can say this word, but this B-starred, right? We can fill the gaps in ourselves, is still out there. You know, does it anger you? Have you come to terms with it? You're never going to be okay with it. But how do you feel about that? Knowing that he's out at large.
Yeah. It has been several emotions. I'm so sad that I have done my utmost to kind of get him in prison and get the police here in Europe to do what they should have done, and they didn't. So all the people who he has defrauded is so many in Germany, but none of them want to come public, you know, but so many people. Germany, Netherlands, Denmark. You have no idea how many people this guy has defrauded. And now he has started in Israel. So sadness over that. I have done my utter what I can do. Anger by the public need for, you know, sensationalism and making celebrities out of him.
Yeah.
Him being on Cameo, over 200,000 followers he had on TikTok. Kind of that has angered me. Because I don't give two shits about him, to be honest.
Good.
It's more about people giving him the opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't give. He's worth nothing. He's a proper narcissist and psychopath. And I'm sorry, send another lawsuit. But I'm like, he's a proper, and he doesn't have any feelings. Doesn't have friends. He doesn't have family. I feel sorry for him. I want to laugh at him. That is what I feel about him.
Good for you.
Yeah, but we need to get him in jail because we need protection from him because he will never stop. That is all the feelings. And I got to know Kate Conlon, that was the model that was at the end of the documentary. She was defrauded by him as well, and she was in a documentary over half a year ago in Israel. And she told me some stuff that they watched a Tinder Swindler together, and it made me feel really happy that he is obsessed with us, and he's so angry about kind of the amazing things we've been able to do after this. He's angry at it.
Because that's the narcissist in him.
But that has made me feel really good.
Yeah, well, it should do. It should empower you.
Because I want him to suffer. I want him to feel just as bad, just as angry. I want him to be miserable. That is so if he's not in prison, I want him to just have a terrible life. He might project still that he's fucking happy.
Yes.
But he's not happy.
Externally, because the narcissist needs to feed, you know, a professional person in my life said to me, the narcissist is like a vampire. They bite your neck and it's really uncomfortable, but they're literally sucking the blood out of you, and they are not happy until every single ounce is gone. And then they will let you fall on the floor and they'll just step over you and say, where's my next victim?
Yes.
And that doesn't necessarily mean all the time in this instance of defrauding somebody. It might be emotionally. So there's narcissistic lovers out there, you know, that will go after men or women and mess with them emotionally. And they don't care about you. Never really did. And then they're looking for the next victim. I
think for him, that was the duality. Because he thoroughly enjoyed the power that he had over us in person as well.
Yes,
he could have just done, you know, most romance fraud victims are just online. They never meet them. So he could have easily just made up a little conspiracy thing on his own, just online. He thoroughly enjoyed, you know, kissing us, like making that, like having that power over us. And I think that makes me disgusted by him. Really disgusted.
Me too, just listening to that.
Because I'm like, you're taking it to the next level here.
And he's ill.
Yeah.
He's ill.
So that is my opinion of him being out there, that I'm just really angry with European police, and I'm not over that. I have had a lot going on in the last years, but I'm going to make not a complaint, but I'm going to hear what actually happened with both my case and what happened those months he was in prison in Greece, and why they decided not to ask for an extradition. That is my biggest question for them. And they better give me a good answer. Sorry.
again, that you know, again, for the benefit of the listeners that are not watching this, your eyes then, Cecile, there was such determination in those eyes of yours.
There's been so many throughout these years who have thinking that I will give up. I think a lot of people in certain ways going to think I'm going to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to be this. I said I'm going to be this annoying that is gonna, I might not get, I'm never gonna get justice in my case, but I want to get justice for more than just me. We have a lot of victims out there.
And that's beautiful, because again, when we spoke, off air, I said to you something which I see in you, which I feel, the connection, albeit brief, that we've had today. You are not all about you. You are a complete empath, because you are caring about what's happening to other people before yourself, almost. And I think that's beautiful. Your mission now is also that you've got lovesaid.org. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's just been amazing. It started in Norway, actually, that I started like in April 2019, because I was like, I wanted to do something more, because after the first time I got contacted by so many fraud victims, I was like, and why are they contacting me? Because there's nowhere else they can turn. They feel a connection.
Right.
You're not going to judge me. Where should I go? How did you get your story told in media? Can I do the same? Started connecting with some organizations in Norway, but I decided last year that I'm going to move fully here, or I'm going to stay in the UK.
Good.
So I got in touch with another woman called Anna Rowe, which is on social media as well under Catch the Catfish. Amazing woman. For 5 years, she's been helping fraud victims one-to-one that is in these situations for free, part-time, while she's a teacher. So I met up with her and we were talking, and her kind of plans and what she wanted to do was exactly like mine. So what we really want to create is like one-stop shop for romance fraud victims. We really want to be the place where it's a support center, be the organization I wish I had. Step-by-step guides to tell you what you should do when, the laws that can be applicable in different cases, because you don't know that when you get defrauded. Which laws can I use?
Yeah.
When should I let the banks know? What should I say? What should I bring with me,
Yes.
And then as well, we really want to create a peer community, because I have gotten so much the best therapy I've gotten is talking to other fraud victims.
Yeah.
And to see how many are contacting me and feel strength and empowered with what we've been doing with the Tinder Swindler, and see like, you are inspiring, because I can see that you were down there and you lost everything, but look at you now. So now I see you. So we want to create that. We want to empower fraud victims to actually become fraud fighters, as we call each other in the fraud community. So that is kind of the hope. And then do training with police officers, training with banking employees, making them more equipped to handle people who are traumatized. So that is like the big goal.
It's a little bit like, when we talk about the narcissist again, it's not really okay to say I was the victim of a narcissist. It's better to say I'm a survivor. Because the framing of those words means that we give ourselves something. We give ourselves something. Victim takes it away from us a little bit. And it's a play on words, I know, and I'm sure that an NLP practitioner listening to this may say, well, actually, Ian, you're not quite right. So,
but can I say something on that though?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's been very empowering to be viewed as a victim.
Has it?
Because I was never viewed as a victim. Like I was taken to trial by 4 banks, got told that this was never a victim there. With the police, I became a suspect because I had sent in fake documents. So I had to go into questioning as a suspect. Again, this is your fault. So when Simon was jailed in Greece, I wasn't even allowed to get any information of the guy who had made death threats towards me, because I was a suspect. I was supposed to have gone into a thing called collaboration with Simon to defraud American Express. So I was never, for several years, was never viewed as a suspect by the most powerful entities, by the police, the court system, and the banks. Everyone pointed fingers at me and said, this is your fault, Cecilia. You're the suspect. And I was like, for me, luckily, I'm not in my early 20s, maybe because I'm a bit older, that I have much more security and I'm not as stupid. Like, I'm not like, I'm a fucking monster. So I know that I know what I went through. And I think finding my tribe, finding others.
Right.
That has been so important for me. Right. Find a university, the professors who are doing research into this, like that we are actual survivors of abuse, emotional abuse, coercive control.
But you were a victim.
Yeah. But for me, it's been very, very nice. And that is what I'm hoping to get from the police. I want a proper apology, Because you're not making a suspect out of a victim to try to get to the suspect, because that's what they said to me in the end.
Wow.
That is not how you do it, because you're traumatizing. So I was traumatized by the fraud, and I was re-traumatized by both what the police did to me and what the banks did to me during the trial.
Wow.
So a lot of people but I totally support you that I feel survivor is a much more empowering word, and it makes you feel that you can actually be proactive and do something. I'm a survivor. Like, I survived this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do something great with it, you know.
Like the Gloria Gaynor song, I'm a survivor.
Yeah. So that is what I mean. So I totally agree about that. But I think just in my particular story, just to be seen and say you were a victim of a horrible crime, Cecilia, has been very healing for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I agree with you. I agree with you. Your lessons from all of this, Cecilia. I mean, there must be a whole big host, but, you know, clearly there's scarring, isn't there?
It's a lot of scars. And I started therapy recently again, like trauma therapy, because I've seen that, as I said, I can still tear up, and it's like still very raw. And now that I'm doing more speaking and talking about it on stage is really difficult. So they're still there, even though there are other, it's gone 5 years, but there's still a lot of things that happen afterwards that I need to properly just speak out to someone. But I think what I have learned, which we talked about a bit outside, is what is important in life. And I've gotten much closer to my family, my friends, that I've become a better person, much more calm. I think I don't hunt for happiness the same way, because the happiness is just within you. I don't think, because a lot of the times we are trying to find stuff.
I love that.
Or we think about, I'm going to have such a great life 5 years from now, or this vacation, but I'm trying to enjoy here and now much more, because we don't know what the future will bring. And as I say, find good people around you, find your tribe, find the ones who are doing the same kind of fight, because they're out there. And it was like, for me, it was like a breath of fresh air when I met people who said, like, yeah, I've done some research and it is abuse, what you have endured, kind of, or it is coercive control. And it's like, yeah, kind of, yeah, because I really felt that. But every time I was speaking to, more the police and the banks, and just the boy
flipping it on you, making you feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what happens when we're at the hands of somebody like this.
Yeah.
Again, whether it be monetary or emotionally, they've gaslighted us so much. And then we're getting gaslighted by the bloody authorities that we start to think, well, is it all me?
Yes.
And it isn't.
Yeah.
It is not.
Do you be proactive and find the proper research, because it's out there? Like, I think it's kind of weird, but it's like find the people who are aligning with your morals, and I think that has helped me tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. And interestingly enough, when we look back at some, you were sharing a couple of pictures with me outside the studio. And I was like, is that you? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, really? And you were like, yeah, this is what, and I was like, oh my God, you look so much better now.
Afterwards.
No, that was right after. I mean,
was right after.
You know what I'm saying, don't you? You honestly, I your story is so shit. And I look across this studio table at you, and I see a light. And I'm so in awe of you, because you could have just crumbled into nothing.
And that is another thing. Be better and not bitter, because it can eat you up. Because, like, this could easily, I hate the police, I hate the banks, I hate everyone, could have easily gone into myself and like, this entire world sucks. But I think you see the beauty of it when you find those great people who are out there. Yeah. Everyone. I think it, for example, now to talking to banks and see now that they're taking it in kind of, and see that they want to do better. And like, how can we talk to fraud victims better? And you're making me think differently about fraud victims. It's like, it makes me feel so amazing that kind of the next time a fraud victim contacts a bank, they will meet a different banking employee afterwards.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, there'll be a difference.
That you're not as scared.
Making a difference.
Yeah. Not as scared as talking to authorities and stuff like that we are maybe scared of, because the fraudsters are making us do the illegal acts.
Yes.
We're their hands. We're their, like, we are what they're doing, and that's how they are getting away with it.
Yeah.
So I think that is super important to...
I hear you. I hear you. So you're obviously now co-founder of lovesaid.org. How's the future looking for you right now, Cecile? You know, I mean, you know, you're here, you're smiling, you look great. So, how is, you know, what's going on? What's your projects right now? What's happening?
I have a bit of a secret project that I can't say so much about.
You're going to give us a first? No. Go on. No? Okay.
I can, like...
Teaser? No?
Might be some more TV.
Really?
Might be some more TV. We'll see. Might be something.
You tell me off air.
Yeah. But I think to do something more in alignment with this and do that could be really, really fun. And that is what I'm hoping for. Okay. And then just just spreading the word. And I really want, I think LoveSaid is going to be my main priority, because I think we hear that it's hugely needed. So that is going to be my main one. I want it to be worldwide, you know, and that will take time. Not much time.
And how can people find you, to support you, to be part of your tribe, not trolls? If you're listening and you're a troll, you can fripping do one, right? We don't want to know from you. So how can people find you and you know, get in touch with LoveSaid and everything, all of the other beautiful things that you're doing?
Well, the biggest is on Instagram. It's Cecilia_, and then we have LoveSaid_org as well on Instagram. Okay. So that is and on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So if there's anyone that Cecile Fjellhøy in LinkedIn, if there's any, and still, if people have any suggestions and anything, I'll take. I'm still on the journey. We were talking about how we are always on a journey. We're always growing. On a journey. So always on a journey. Anyone can help out LoveSaid or have any. So on lovesaid.org, we are having a form where you can actually sign up to the newsletter that we're thinking having, and then if you can help us out in any way. So there's plenty of ways people can help us.
All right. So I've got to ask you this final question. It just popped into my head. So you mentioned bad winters or nice winters in Norway because of the snow and the cold and everything else. I do ice tank therapy where I sort of submerge into a 5-degree water and just sort of, I think it's amazing. Do you do anything like that, or you know, how do you balance this missing of the cold?
I'm going to Norway. I'm traveling back home.
Simple.
I tried. I went to a spa where they had an ice bath, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I couldn't do it. No? I think I have to jump in it. My sister, she's been very good at it, but I'm not. No. But maybe I should. I got from my therapist. She said that you should put your head in ice cold water. She said that can be a good to level out.
That's right.
So I was gonna start doing that. I said that to her, and I should. So maybe I'll just start with my head, my face, and then I'll join you maybe at a later stage. The entire body.
I invite you here and now. My friend David, who's the facilitator at the Farm Club, and it's an amazing place up in Cheshire, and he does the ice tank work there. And you can either go for a swim in the lake, which is a little bit warmer this time of year, or you can go into the tanks of ice cold water. It's incredible. Honestly, it is incredible. So beautiful afterwards. And I've seen men who are like, you know, muscle bound and tanks in the gym most probably. And they put their little toe into the water and they go, I can't do this, you know. But David helps facilitate you get into the right headspace with the right breathing and just see it in a different way. And it is beautiful. So open invite, Cecile.
Thank you.
Come up to my neck of the woods, and we'll go and sit in some free. And I'm going to say to you, hey, listen, does this take you back to Norway? So.
It might do. I love it. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. So, it's been amazing to listen to your story, and I know it's been well publicized and everything else, but I'm so blessed to have you in the studio with me today. I really am. Honestly, it's just been great off air and sitting here with you today. And thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No,
it's been awesome.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it.
That's it.